Toby Moma, the host on Health and Wellness with Dr. Toby. What a pleasure, what an honor to invite you to watch our show this week. We have the Honorable Patrick Jefferson, the State House of Representative member for District 11 in the state of Louisiana. Patrick is a father, he's a husband, Patrick is a lawyer, he's an attorney, Patrick is a son, Patrick is a brother, Patrick is a Christian, he's a chairman of the Deacons Board in his church, he's a Christ follower, and he's a firm believer in faith and family. I want you to listen to what he has to say. Patrick Jefferson, he studied in Dillard University for his undergrad and then went on to Ohio State University for his JD. He's been practicing for more than 20 years now, and he's going to be sharing his heart on family, faith, and the future. You don't want to miss it. He has some nuggets that even the young ones will find inspiring. Don't miss Patrick Jefferson on this show. God bless you. Dr. Toby, your host on Health and Wellness with Dr. Toby. Thank you for joining us. We have a great show with Honorable Patrick Jefferson. He's the House of Representatives member for District 11 in the state of Louisiana. We're privileged to have him on our show today. I've known him since 2010, and we actually met when I came to work in Arcadia. And I remember one of the first meetings we had was he came for a prayer meeting that I was organizing, and it was an all-night shut-in, and he came with his mom. And I think it was only 4 of us in that big hall. I think it was my wife, him, his mother, and himself. And during that prayer meeting, I actually made a prophecy that there was somebody here who was 42 who was going to get into public office. And within a year or two, he got into public office. And God has lifted him. He's been serving since 2011. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. Yes. And I actually, that was true because it was in 2010 that I spoke that word, and within a year he became a House of Rep member, and he has stayed in the House of Reps, and it's an honor and a privilege to call him a friend, a brother, and our honorable member for the state of Louisiana. So just tell us a bit about how you got into politics. There's this myth in the church that Christians shouldn't go into politics. It's dirty, it will soil your linen, your garments of righteousness, you know. There's that myth out there. So how did you, who's a bona fide Christian, child of God, son, born again Christian, how did you get involved in politics? Just give us a background of that.
Well, it started probably in high school.
Okay.
Running for various presidents of the different classes. Took me when I went on to Dillard University. I was involved in Student Government Association. And as I indicated previously, when I was in the 11th grade, I took a journey to Washington, D.C., wow. And I served as a Senate page for the late Senator Russell B. Long. And just seeing how things were presented and how government worked, it really crystallized in that I wanted to serve humanity. And as a result, I started, after graduating from law school, I went back to my alma mater and was the dean of students at Dillard University. And then there was a nudge, you know, do other things, do something else. And so I began practicing law. And then Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005.
So you were practicing in New Orleans?
In New Orleans, that's correct. And there was no doubt in my mind where I was headed. And Hurricane Katrina brought me back to North Louisiana, back home to Arcadia, Louisiana. And as a result, I began to practice there in Claiborne Parish. But as a solo practitioner, you practice in all areas. And then ran for police jury. Got a chance to serve Bienville Parish, the citizens of Bienville Parish, and got a chance to be president. Did some great things while there, started some great things. One of the things I'm most proud of being on the jury Number one, we started a program. It was called JET, Jurors Empowering Teens.
Oh, wow.
And it was a summer program where we would select students throughout the parish and empower them by giving them work experiences. And then the second thing is collectively we convince the residents rather of Bienville Parish to build a state-of-the-art courthouse.
Wow.
And that's what you see on Interstate 20.
On I-20.
That's correct.
Yeah. So that was out of the city funds?
No, parish.
The parish funds. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
parish government.
Okay. Wow. Awesome. So that was that was your journey from New Orleans. So you were in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina.
Hurricane Katrina, the mayor said you need to evacuate. We got out of there and headed north.
Amazing. And I know it was tough. Obviously, you had to make do with accommodation and you lost property.
That's correct. Well, just acclimating. You know,
Okay.
I'd been in the city. And city life is a little different from small town America life, but I made the adjustment. Got heavily involved in one of the local churches, and the rest is history.
Isn't that your family church? No,
Yes,
it
Holland
is.
Grove is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the church I am the deacon, chairman of the deacon
Okay.
ministry. Yes, that is my family church, but I was reared and shaped, if you will, at Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church.
In Arcadia.
In Arcadia, that's correct.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I didn't know that. And tell me a little bit about your worldview. Obviously, you told me you've traveled to England. I don't know. What's your worldview on religion, democracy, rule of law? Some people have a worldview that is, colored by the Bible. Some people have a worldview that is colored by, the United States Constitution. So what's your worldview? How do you look at things?
Well, I'm very, very simple in that regard. There's only one way to heaven, and that's through Jesus the Christ. All those other ancillaries, they're great people. Good things are done, but as for me, it is strictly JESUS.
Right.
As it relates to democracy, I do understand and realize that the world in which we live is forever changing. And I do also appreciate, from my perspective, that we live in the greatest country on the face of the earth, which is the United States of America. But I also understand, as I've read and understand and believe, that the challenges in Africa, the challenges in Europe, the challenges in Russia, invariably affect us here in America. So, again, as you can hear, I quote King a lot. We are tied, and as he indicated, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's why when you saw this past summer, all of the protests, they were not just in Minnesota or Atlanta or Dallas, but they were worldwide.
Global.
That's correct.
Wow. That's a powerful statement. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Wow. I didn't know you were Martin Luther King.
Well, I'm not, but I tell you, most days, Dr. Toby, and if I'll say this, I listen to him, and one of the great sermons that he's ever done from my perspective is the 3 dimensions of a complete life.
Oh, wow.
And Dr. King, with all that he accomplished, even today, he is such a great example to humanity on what one can become.
Wow.
He realized his shortcomings. He also accepted his challenges, and he understood that it would take a cadre of folk, not just 1 or 2, to get it done. And lastly, he was willing to sacrifice for the greater good. And not many of us, because as you spoke earlier, many of us, if it benefits me, that's all that matters.
I know Arcadia is I'll say 40, 60, 50, 50 African American, Caucasian.
There's probably more American Americans now.
Okay. And I'm just trying to say, in a world that is so divisive, you've been a breath of fresh air because you put Jesus first.
Oh, yes.
You obviously are African American, but you've never tried to outmuscle another race because you have African American descent. You relate to everybody across the board.
Well,
And
that's what Jesus was all about.
right.
In as much as, he said, you've done it to the least of these, you've
That's
done it
right.
unto me. And when you look at solutions and challenges and answers and problems, it's LOVE.
That's right.
As they've indicated, and King went on to say this in that speech I just talked about. He said, if you love me, then you won't do some of the things that we're doing now
Right.
to each other. So it's still the foundation, notwithstanding the error, notwithstanding the message or the messenger, the message is still the same.
So we've made mistakes. Go back to love
Oh,
to make.
if we would go back to the
amends.
base, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, love is the key, and Jesus is love.
So, like I said earlier, some people have this notion of Christians not being involved in politics. Have you ever faced a conflict with your Christian faith in political office, whether in the police jury or
Oh yeah.
in the House of Representatives?
Oh.
And how did you
Well,
face them?
thank you for that question, and the answer is yes. Recently, we are so divided. The country is so polarized. One of the things that I'm so proud of and excited, every Tuesday, a few of us meet together and we pray.
Oh,
Republicans, Democrats, black, white. But I had become a bit weary because I didn't understand how we could pray together. We could laugh together. And then when things were mentioned that were there to help uplift humanity, they were just people I did not recognize. So I had to search deep within. And we were reminded that, number one, we were all called and sent there. And as a result, there will be differences.
right.
We can disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable.
Disagreeable.
So yes, you wrangle with that. You wrestle with that because you're human. And when you hear from a national standpoint the big lie, and you hear people saying how much they love Jesus, and yet you can embrace that and the divisiveness of the day, it can be frustrating. But I'm thankful that when I get to times of like that, that I can steal away and just revert back to the Word
That's right.
and find strength in solos and understand that because of the love we just spoke of, because of what He didn't die because of us. He died in spite of us. And we are all wrangling as sinners. We live in a fallen world.
Wow. Now, you practice in Homer,
My office is in Homer, Homer.
MER. Okay. Is that part of your constituency?
That's correct.
Okay. That's
Claiborne Parish.
Claiborne Parish. Okay.
Just before you get to Arkansas.
Wow. Okay. So tell us what you specialize in, and again, I don't want to say this, but some people think lawyers are not. That it's also a conflict when you're a Christian and you're a lawyer. So you have two things people think is almost diametrically opposed to the Christian testimony. But you are a living example of how those myths are not true. Because some people think politicians cannot be Christians and lawyers cannot be Christians. But you have a law practice and you are a legislator and you're a Christian. So you're demystifying that myth today. And hopefully somebody watching will not take home that false analogy. But tell me, your practice, what do you specialize in? And have there been any challenges as a Christian practicing law in Homer? I mean...
Yes, sir. And again, no pun intended, Dr. Toby, the jury is still out.
Okay.
Because I'm a work in progress. And that is the hope. What you just articulated, that is the hope. Not that I will be a millionaire. Not that I would live here or there, but that all that I do, God will be glorified.
Glorified Jesus.
That's every day I get up.
Hmm.
Every day I feel phone calls. Um, that's the hope.
Mm.
I do a lot of criminal work,
Okay.
family law, and when you're a solo practitioner, as I am, uh, most things that come through the door, you can talk with them. But I try to encourage. I try to counsel. I try to set right,
Mm.
and if you can, if choices have been made that were not good choices, as we indicated a few minutes ago,
Mm.
we try to do what we can to mitigate. And been doing it for a while.
Wow.
I enjoy it, and more importantly, I enjoy people because I love people.
Tell us about your experience in Ohio. Ohio is the Midwest. Obviously, leaving Louisiana to go to Ohio, I'm sure you hadn't seen that much snow in your life. I'm sure you met a lot of different races, different tribes,
Yes,
different
yes. I shall
ethnicities.
never forget the first winter storm,
Mm.
as you have experienced. Here in Louisiana, we shut down everything.
Right.
And I was anticipating that's what's going to happen
Okay.
in Columbus. It did not. It's just another day.
Oh.
So that was an eye-opening experience, but I was fortunate enough to have so many individuals. Going back to the advice my mom gave me, I found a church
Oh.
I
In
found in
Columbus.
Columbus, and they embraced me. They loved me. They supported me.
Wow.
They helped me. They fed me. And as a result, I was able to meander. And as soon as I got my degree, I love you, but it's time to go back where it's a little warmer.
Wow. Did you, I know you, I mean, I'm going to talk about your relationship later, but along the way you met females, you had relationships, but now you're married to Duchess. A lot of young people have that, you use what, issues that they're growing up. They, have family issues, maybe separations, and it can become a big yoke on their progress, alimony, child support. It's a big deal in the African American
Yes.
community. I know you see this all every day. So how do you counsel your clients about paying child support, keeping up with their children, even though they are not married to their mothers or their husbands? I mean, tell me how you, as a lawyer and as a Christian, and have done this in your practice and even all your life as a father.
It
You know.
sounds cliche, but just do the right thing.
Mm.
And that's difficult because when you're dealing with family situations, when you go in with the mindset that there will be a winner and someone who will lose, then that further complicates the situation.
Mm.
Most times when you're dealing with child support, the numbers speak for themselves. They are what they are. And we all know that whatever that number is, still there are other things that will be required in the nurturing
Of that
of
child.
this child. So I try to relay, of course, you can submit things to the judge that they can consider. There's a little bit of discretion. But for the most part, I just relay to them, if you're looking for peace, if you're looking for doing the right thing, you have to, you do the right thing. Don't worry
Mm.
about what the other party
What the other
does,
part is doing,
but
right?
you have to do what's right. And we try to make sure that there are instances where individuals pay child support, and the father or the mother will not let the other party have visitation with the
Right.
child. And so I try to encourage them to be steadfast. And again, you do what's right.
Right.
And I've not seen a time or a situation where, because the world is round,
Mm.
where things come back the way they
Wow.
should.
You talked a little earlier about the criminal justice reforms that you were part of. Um, what what were those reforms for those who don't know, and have they been able to make a change in the Louisiana state incarceration rates? I mean, I think we had one of the highest
That's correct.
incarceration rates in the country. So what was the reform you were part of? And I personally know, because we used to go to OCC here in Washington Parish to preach, and I know some people who literally left the prison because of those prison reforms.
Yeah.
One of those people came and said, he said, I prophesied that he will leave. I said, really? I don't remember prophesying, but thank God you're out. I
Well,
think I saw him in Walmart or something.
okay. Well, on the side, since you prophesied some years ago, I'm expecting a good prophecy as well.
I am
A
prophesying.
prophecy. But anyway, just to make sure that we didn't have the highest per capita incarceration rate, not in the country, but in the world. That has now changed a bit. Individuals have been given an opportunity at a new lease on life through programs as they are incarcerated to empower them. So once they leave the system, they're able to gain employment and take care of their responsibilities in their families. As I alluded to earlier, we kind of assessed it and we looked at research. And this, see, good things, Dr. Toby, come when folk come together.
That's right.
Right now, you've started by saying how polarized and how divisive we are. But Republicans, evangelicals, Democrats, the right, the left, all of us came together.
Right.
And we said, this is not working. This is not the greatest deterrent. There may be other ways, other means that we can use as far as our society is concerned. And as a result, individuals who have been users are now getting the support and help that they need so that they can change their lives and be productive. Because we made an assessment. The cost at incarcerating versus the cost of educating. And it's a no-brainer. Either you'll pay on one end or the other, and we'd rather pay as far as to educate instead of to incarcerate.
Wow. So that's
And there were so many, so many different bills, but that was it in the gist.
that was how it came
Yes.
out. Wow. Thank you for your groundbreaking work, because I think Louisiana was a leader in that statistic, and obviously.
Well, I always say a group is indicative of its leader. And all of this came under the leadership of the 56th governor of the great state of Louisiana,
Edwards, right.
Governor John Bel Edwards.
Wow.
He had the moxie because it took great courage to go and to sit down with sheriffs, police officers, law enforcement, and to listen.
Right.
District attorneys, but he did. And he would always say, and this is what struck me by Governor Edwards, that if my answer or my solution is not the best, I'm listening. There are some folk, this is my way and this is the only way.
Right.
So there was compromise, there was give, there was take. And when we passed legislation and there were unintended consequences or it didn't work the way it was intended, we came back, shaved up, helped to make it better.
Wow.
So I definitely want, if you will, to use a colloquialism, give him a shout out.
Definitely.
Because he had the courage to do that, and it has saved us money, and that money now has been able to assist through education, through other programs to uplift, and that's what it's all about.
Wow. And so talk to me about you have a family, and you're married to Duchess, and in this current generation they call it a blended family. How have you been able to handle that? In America, it's a tough call in some quarters.
Well, it's tough, but the first thing is you go in. I don't believe in step.
Okay. What's that?
Stepchildren.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't believe
that
in
word.
It. Yes.
You don't believe in that word, right?
So we are, we fight, we fuss like any family.
Right. But
perhaps
love is still
the love. It
is
has
the
to be
crux
there.
of the issue, right?
If any of them are in need, we're there to assist. That's our role and responsibility. And often, particularly today, it may not come in the form in which we think it should come, But we can, as I told you about the village, but we can help in many instances. You know, individuals who perhaps don't have the environment that we have. It's our job and responsibility, if we are Christ-like, to do that. The challenge, Dr. Toby, not what people will hear today, but what do they see when I'm not speaking before a camera? What do they hear if they are eavesdropping on one of my phone calls?
Right.
What do they see when I go and visit perhaps some clients, or if I'm in my office? That's the challenge. The challenge is not, you know, anyone could sound good or make
Talk the
things.
talk,
That's correct.
right.
But we have to walk, and so I love blended families, if you will. Of course, if we lived in a perfect world, there would not be a need. But we live in a fallen world.
That's right.
So when I married Stephanie, I also married her children.
Okay.
You know,
Wow.
I married her family. When she married me, she also accepted and married my children and my family.
And that's an example to those watching, because it shouldn't be the reason for division or strife or chaos or confusion.
Well, and it can be, though.
It
I
can
mean,
be,
you know,
right.
Stephanie's children, we've had our share. But at the end of the day, it's about what they see in the life that I live and how I embrace and treat their mother. In the adage that, like Christ loved the church, that's my responsibility. But I love, and to see families going on vacation, to see families there for each other.
Right.
Again, we have to go back to those
Supporting
things.
each other's
That's correct.
dreams.
That's important.
Yeah. And even your father's kids.
Yes.
I mean, they're your brothers.
Those
and
my
sisters.
brothers. Yes. Yeah.
You never put a division because they're not from your mother.
No, not at all. I mean, those are my brothers. In fact, when I got back here, I started something. It didn't last too long, but I started it. We would go out to dinner just to talk.
Reunion, not reunion, but get together.
Yeah, get together. I mean, and again, when I've done things, I've always, because they're my brothers, and just as you are my brother, but they're my brothers, and we just have to do more of that because again, we are tied, we're connected, and part of the challenge is when we hear something going on down the street, and we turn our heads and faces. It was also said by King, those things that we fail to address today will haunt us tomorrow.
What an honor to have Patrick Jefferson on the show. The last show he's going to talk about his family and his faith. We're going to talk about his family and his faith, and you don't want to miss it. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you next time. Jesus is Lord. Amen.